Happy Thursday, everyone. It is Debbie D. Grote here. Last week we had a little tech difficulty, so they are working on that at the office. I didn't want to risk it. I came to the home office to be sure we had good Wi-Fi because we have a really important topic today. I've invited someone that I have met over the course of the last few months and got to know a little bit about the product that they offer, which is called Area Pro. And if you noticed in our title, our topic today is, I'm reading I got to read the title, AI Tools for Realtors, Simplify Market Data to Win More Clients. AI is obviously something we're all just starting to embrace and utilize in some fashion. And I've had quite a few of you reach out to me in the last couple of months and say, how do we need to be using AI? Do we have to figure it out ourselves? Also, a lot of conversation around who are the people we should be targeting as this year gets going that's going to produce the highest return on your investment of time. And while we all have our thoughts and ideas on that, compiling that data, finding the information, selecting those markets, it's super time consuming. So I invited Sean Anderson here today. Sean is going to talk to us about how to utilize AI and some very simple and insanely affordable tools to master the market, to have the cutting edge, to find those opportunities. Now, I want you guys to know that I'm not going to do a lot of the heavy lifting because I don't even know how to talk to you about this. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean. And I've asked Sean, as you guys know with me, if there's ever a vendor I introduce you to, I want no kickbacks or payoffs from that vendor. Instead, I want them to give any bonus or benefit directly to you. So this is just for your information only. I do not profit if you choose to use Area Pro, but I think it's going to open your eyes to some really amazing things. Now, as Sean goes through, we'll keep the chat box active, and I know he'll probably answer most of the questions by the end of our time together. But Sean, I'll just kind of hang out and make sure that if I see something super important, I'll grab it. And then at the end, we can stay on with them and just go through any questions that you haven't had a chance to answer. So Sean, with all of that, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate it. This is an honor to be here. I met a lot of the folks on this call, I'm sure already. I've got John Parker. He's my technology partner. We've been in business together for 3 years on the technology side. He joined our enterprise. I'm partners with Mike Hicks and Chris Bertinoli as well. We do real estate here in East Idaho, and this is just exciting. We've been really impressed with what Forward Coaching is doing and the training that you're bringing to the industry. So this is a real honor. And I know we don't want to just sit here and sell the whole time. I do want to spend some time today. I've been selling real estate for 17 years. I have a business degree, and immediately one of my focuses as I entered the industry was market data. And so I want to bring value today, just training a little bit in general on market, like mastering the market and understanding like what it is that we need to be comfortable talking about with our clients. And I recognize that on this call, Debbie, we probably have a really broad spectrum of personality types on the call, right? We have people who love numbers and they wake up at night, just start with a pencil and start doing math. We have others that get kind of sick to their stomach if they see a spreadsheet. Is that right? Is that your experience with agents?
Yeah, or even some tech that just don't love technology in general, right? But are realizing they're going to have to embrace it to avoid really becoming a dinosaur, I think, in the industry.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's, regardless of personality type, because what's so fun about this industry is all of those personality types can be successful in this industry because, some of us are creatives, and that's going to be what really puts us to the top of what we do. Others are going to be market driven, others are going to be really organized, others are going to be fun. And that's what's so awesome about real estate, is that every personality type can succeed. But I believe that we have ones that come natural to us, but I also believe that we need to have a minimum working knowledge or level of expertise in the ones that don't as well. So for example, I'm not very creative, but I have to. And actually, not very social either. If I go to a trade show, the last thing I want to do after an event is go to the happy hour afterwards. It doesn't come naturally for me. Meeting new people doesn't, but I have to be able to do that to a minimum degree to be able to be successful. Others, like, that is why they go to those shows, is the after party, to go hang out and make friends. And so with numbers, I enjoy numbers. And so what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes before I dive into the platform, because I really don't want this to be all about Area Pro, I want to dive into what it looks like to be a master of the real estate market, and what that minimum working knowledge is that we need to have if we don't have this natural gravitation towards numbers. And so I guess just a little background. Like I said, I've been selling real estate for a long time. I graduated from college in 2002, worked for a software company for 3 years, and then got into real estate at that point. So it was around 2000. Right around 2006, 2007, if that lines up. So started selling real estate right away, and immediately I started exporting data from our MLS just into CSV formats and into a spreadsheet table. And every week I would dump new data, and I would just started building this big Excel spreadsheet over the years of what was happening in our market, because I was interested in that. And I realized if I took some of that information with me on my consultations, that things were different in those consultations. Like I said, I've never been naturally like a high I. And so I had to find some other way to stand out with my customers as I would go on those appointments. And I realized that if I could explain what was happening in the market in a simple and easy way that they could understand, it immediately established trust and credibility with them. And it made everything else easier along the way. And so that became kind of my niche, and have built a big business. We do a lot of business in Southeast Idaho. It's not a huge area, but we have a pretty good market share. We do run a team right now called Anderson Hicks, and we're just having a lot of fun doing that. But over the years, I've sold a lot of houses, probably 3,000 plus. I was the main listing agent for our team for a number of years and was doing over 200 a year. And I don't say that, Debbie, to brag. I just say that so that people know that you're talking to someone who has built technology, but also who is still to this day going on appointments, talking to sellers. In fact, last night I was going through the market conditions with a seller, and I'll tell that story in a minute when we get there. But let me share just a few things that I think make a market expert.
So Sean, just quickly before you
please.
dive right in here, I shared with you yesterday, I had the opportunity a few years ago to be hired by a broker who had me do a massive amount of focus groups with buyers and sellers. And we asked them lots of different questions. But the question of how do you choose the real estate agent that you want to work with, almost 100% the answer was the same. We want somebody who is a local market expert to advise us, right? And so when we think about that, we think of all the pretty bells and whistles that we could take into a listing appointment or feature at a buyer consult. Those are all great. They're like the icing on the cake. But in my opinion, to be a true real estate professional, this is where it begins. You need to be a market expert. So talk them through a little bit about what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I think what that means to me, there's a few different things what goes into that. Number one is just we have a working knowledge of what is happening in a market. Really, if you think about one of the most common questions we get, Debbie, in this business is how's the market? And that question can come up at a soccer game on the sidelines from a parent. It can be in the grocery store. One thing that's fun about real estate is the longer you do it, the more signs you have out there. You kind of become a little bit of a known face in the community, and people that you don't even know will walk up and, hey, Sean, hey, Debbie, and you may not even know them, and then they'll ask you what's happening right now in the market. And so knowing how to answer how's the market using data in a way that doesn't bore them is really what it's all about. So you got to become fluent in the stats. And I'll show you in a few minutes, like what are the key stats, because there are hundreds of metrics that you could spend time memorizing and studying every day that you don't have
But
to
who
go
has
that
time
deep.
for that,
Nobody
right?
has time for that. They don't.
Well,
And most clients,
it's
go
funny,
ahead.
Sean, so many years ago, my very first real estate seminar, the speaker said, when someone asks you, how is the market? Say it's unbelievable, because that covers unbelievably bad or unbelievably good. But it didn't
Yeah.
take me long to realize that's not a good answer, because if I can't provide actual information about the market, then I'm not going to spark any conversation that's going to lead to an opportunity, right?
Yes.
But
I
I
love
think what you
that.
said that's critical is stats in a clean, clear, simple way that they
Yeah.
can hear it, understand it, and also, if we're not a numbers nerd, that we can explain it.
Yes, I love that. So we have to know the basic stats and which ones matter. Context is everything too. My partner Mike talks a lot about when someone asks him that, he always slows down a little bit to find out what it is that's causing them to ask that question, because context matters. And if I have 100 potential stats I could talk about, no one wants to sit and listen to a presentation about 100 stats in the grocery store.
Right.
So he first takes a few minutes and to learn about why they're asking, and maybe they're just curious, maybe they're starting a conversation, but more than likely they have a son or a daughter, or maybe they're
Some
thinking,
reason.
somebody's wondering. If nothing else, you find out which side of the fence they would be on, buyer or seller, or both, because the how's the market question. Well, a lot of times it depends on which game you're playing. It could be great, and we'll talk about month supply of inventory and buyer's market, seller's market. If you're a buyer in a seller's market, the market is crappy. If you're conversely, if you're a seller in a buyer's market, it's not great. So knowledgeable is first thing, and then being prepared for whatever situation you're walking into. Could be a listing consultation. It could be a buyer consultation. It could be a price reduction conversation, which, Debbie, those in my market, we have gone from 2 weeks worth of inventory in 2021 to 4 months worth of inventory today. So any agent that hasn't sold real estate on our team for more than 2 years does not know
No,
how
no.
to have a conversation with a seller that's been on the market for 45 days. It's a new skill, or one that kind of got rusty. If we were even that skill
Sure.
got rusty for me, because it was how do you present 7 offers was the conversation that we were having for 2 or 3 years. Not how do I keep this seller from being really discouraged and disappointed in me after 45 days on the market. So
Right.
that's another like that. So price reduction conversations, presenting an offer. So being prepared for that situation, that's another critical component of being an expert, taking the time before you walk into a situation to learn what you need to know about that market.
And Sean, last week,
Yeah.
Chris Suarez on a Zoom we were on shared that the buyers and sellers want insider knowledge, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
even though this information could be available to the other competitive agents in your market, what are really the odds that they're going to take the time, prepare, practice their scripting so they deliver it in the right way? And I really want everyone to make a note of figure out the context before you answer the question. So when someone would say to me, how's the market? What's going on? I would say, that's a great question. I'm so glad you asked me. Tell me, so that I can answer more specifically. Is there some opportunity that you're interested in, or is there something on your mind that you need some data to understand? Right.
That is so good. I'm going to go back and write that and steal it. Mike would be clapping right now, because that's so many times we just are so anxious to just throw up all of our expertise and our knowledge. Part of being an
Right.
expert is knowing how to communicate it in a way that isn't about you. It's about the information that you're sharing, and to find out about that. So the way you said that was brilliant. I'm going to go back and write that down. Thank you. Okay, so then the other part of this is to be able to communicate the information in a way that is interesting and engaging for them. And a big part of that is confidence as well. And you know this as well as I do, Debbie. If we're knowledgeable and prepared, that does something interesting for us internally. And it helps us walk into that situation in a way that we are confident in what we know and what we've done to prepare and in our ability to help them navigate whatever it is about they're about to enter into. That's what's so fun about this business. We're talking to people at really critical junctions in their life. And that is such a blessing for us to be a part of that. I mean, not to discredit any other industry, but restaurants. I mean, I love going out to eat and I love good service and I love a restaurant that cares. But at the end of the day, that's like 1 or 2 hours of my evening and a day or two, I'm not thinking about it. When we're helping people buy or sell real estate, it is life changing. And so if we walk in there and we are confident in our ability to help them navigate that, they will feel it. Like this is the conversion that we're like, we have a script at Anderson Hicks or AHG. It's called why AHG? Why hire AHG? And half the time, we don't even get to that script. And I can tell you my listing consultation very briefly, and I share this with a lot of people as I talk to them across the country. First thing I do is walk through the house. And you talk about bad advice from trainers. We had someone come into Idaho Falls like 15 years ago, and they said, hey, don't ever walk through the property with the client. That's such a waste of time. They're going to make that a 30-minute experience when you can do it in 5. So give them a sheet. And I'm sorry if I should have asked if you coached to this, Debbie. I should have asked.
I don't. I believe in taking that time and doing that walkthrough.
Oh, it's so important.
Amazing time to build rapport and
oh
ask
my gosh, it is
great
so
questions. It's part of engaging them.
Yes, he gave us this sheet. He said, give them this sheet, tell them to fill it out. And you're basically making them occupy themselves at the table. So, and I get it. If you're doing 10 listing appointments a day, you have to find efficiencies. But are we really going to give up the number one opportunity to connect with that client and build rapport? I would never give that up. There's not much more important in the experience. So when I show up at the house, I build rapport by walking through it and taking notes. And if it's on the buyer side, same thing. I build rapport by learning about them and why they're sitting here. Why are we talking about buying? All of that stuff. And then I move into the market data conversation. So after we do the walkthrough and I've got lots of notes and we've talked and I've learned about them and they've learned a little bit about me, I ask if it's okay if we just sit at the table and I would like to show you a little bit about what's happening in our market right now. And I love that transition because that's neutral territory. It's not yet going to go into this is what I think your house is worth and I know it's not what you think your house is worth. And so now all of a sudden we're on opposite sides of the table and you just hired me to represent you, but all of a sudden there's some adversarial relationship there because we're battling over like I don't move there yet until we establish like neutral ground on the general market conditions. And oftentimes
Sean,
once that's
if we
done,
can hold that thought for a second, because I was working on a webinar for these guys in March.
Okay.
Tips to win the listing. And one of the things that's a really big deal, I think, is that we understand that consumers have already formed a pretty strong opinion before we get there to list their home. We have some ability to sway that, but don't make the mistake of saying, let's look at the comps. They never think their home comps to the neighbor, and you just broke rapport. Instead, I'd love to say, let's examine the data that the buyers will be examining when they make a decision to preview, to view your home, or to submit a bid.
Yeah.
Let's make it, because then it becomes about the data versus your opinion or a combat between the two of you. Because quite frankly, that's probably the number one reason listings are lost, is how that data and pricing conversation occurs.
Yes. The people I was telling you about last night, this was a tough one. I went home to my wife and I'm like, this just, real estate's hard right now. These people felt like their house was worth 2.5 million and we will be absolutely lucky to get 1.5. And it's rare that I've seen that big of a disparity. Sometimes we're 5 or 10% off of their perception. And boy, that was a tough conversation. But, the data conversation was really helpful. It took us an hour, but just navigating that in a way that didn't lose, because that's oftentimes agents they set out, they don't realize this, but subconsciously they set out to hire the person that tells them their house is worth the most. Mm-hmm. And that is not what they should be hiring an agent on. But anyway, thank you. I appreciate that. I want to get into a little bit here. I want to just run through. I know this was an AI conversation. We are absolutely going to talk about how AI can help in this, but I want to run through just briefly what we think at Area Pro and at Anderson Hicks and over thousands of listing consultations, which metrics we think are the really fundamental ones to be able to help navigate this conversation. So I apologize, our graphic designer, I didn't get this to him in time to make this slide pretty like the last one. So this is like
We
Sean.
don't care. We're not a pretty group. Just let us
Okay.
have it.
Okay, great.
Let
So
us
you
have
have
it.
your metrics fall into three different buckets. Number one, you've got your inventory, like what's available out there today. And real quickly, you've got number of actives, average list price of those, the average days on market for those, and the number of pendings. Pendings technically are part of the inventory still. I consider inventory a sign in the yard. Okay, whether it's got a sold rider or not, that's part of the inventory. And then your average list price of pending. So those are the metrics to really watch and understand regarding the inventory. Then you have your solds. Number of recent sales, how does that work out on a per month basis? And I say recent, there's different definitions of that. Sometimes we go back 90 days, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year. But either way, you want to know kind of what the average number of sales per month is. When we talk about sales, we know in this industry, we're talking about closings. That's they've signed at the title company, it's recorded. Pendings, of course, is when it moves from active to under contract. So average days on market for sold data. And then that ratio, that fun ratio that we talk about all the time about what percentage of ask price did they get? And Debbie, there are two actual versions of that. There's what was the percentage of their sold price, like as a percent of their last ask price, or their original ask price, because there's that price reduction journey that happens. And we know for a lot of markets in the last few years, price reductions have skyrocketed. They've gone through the roof because a lot of mindset, we're still stuck in low inventory markets in a seller. Anyway, you get that. So there's that ratio of original sales price and then the average list price of the solds. So those are the important ones, average sale price of the solds. Now, here's where this gets really fun for me, and this is what really matters, because if I told you, Debbie, if I said, hey, in your market there were 422 sales last month, does that mean anything to you as a consumer?
No, because I have no knowledge of, is that a lot
Right.
or is that a little? I have no
There-
comparison. Data
No
with
comparison.
comparison
Yep.
means nothing, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And once it's relativity that makes data matter for people. So we have to compare that to, and you can compare it to a number of things to give meaning to it. You can compare it to the sales last month. If I said last month, Debbie, we sold 300, and this month we sold 422, all of a sudden there's understanding, sales are ramping up. If I said last month, last year, we sold 900 houses. So basically, January of 24, we sold 900. January of 25, we sold 422. Now, Debbie, all of a sudden, wow. So relativity, remember that when we share numbers, if we don't make them relative to another number, then they don't really have meaning for people who aren't in this business every day. Another thing to make sales relative to is inventory. So that's the other basic bucket of data here is the supply and demand. This is, do we have the right amount of inventory to satisfy the buyers that are out there, and not too much, because if we have too much inventory, then that means buyers start to gain leverage. We all understand the buyer market, seller market conversation. If you have excess inventory and buyers have because Debbie, in a negotiation, whoever has the most alternatives, the most backups to this particular conversation, they're going to win that negotiation, right? If you're selling me something and I like the thing that you're selling me, but I have 10 other really close backups, you don't have a lot of leverage in that conversation. If you're selling me something that it's the only one of its kind and I love it and I don't have a backup, because if this doesn't work out, I don't know what I'm going to buy instead. Now you have all the leverage. And so
the law of scarcity. I love, before we leave this page too, the average list price to sold price. If you know what it is in the market and then you track your own and you know that yours is much stronger, that's very powerful. If I can say to a seller, the average list to sold price in our market is 82%. The average list to sold price personally is 95%, right? That
Yes.
that makes
Huge.
a huge statement.
Yep. And days on market is another one that falls under that same category, right? Average days on market for solds. The average in this community is 72. At Anderson Hicks, it's 46. Like, okay, great. These are areas where we are outperforming the market. So that's really good.
And let's answer this question real quick, Persia. It's a great question.
Oh yeah, I just saw that. Yeah.
Should we know these metrics, by town or by city? Like, for an example, I'm in Newport Beach, and that's obviously Orange County. And for the most part, Sean, Orange County would be a good view because I'd love to hear your opinion on this. I've often found
we're going to dive into
that if the stats are too narrow, they don't give enough information, but I suppose I could do both, right? I could say Orange County and then more specifically in Newport Beach.
Yes. When I saw that question, I'm like, oh, did we pay her to set up where we're going in this conversation? Because I love that question. And the answer is, it kind of depends. And Debbie's exactly right. The county level will satisfy a lot of conversations. And the more data you have in your data set, the more you can rely on your averages, right? If I only have if I'm analyzing all the way down to a subdivision level, and I tell you in your subdivision, Debbie, the average days on market is 322. There was one property that sat there for 3 years, and the other two sold in a week. But that one property, it was that person didn't really need to sell, and they were up in the night, and they had a brand new agent that didn't know how to coach them, and so that one property just made it
look up all the data.
Yeah. When you have an entire county, like our county isn't that big. We only have 350 actives in it, but some counties have 12,000. When you have 12,000 data points, those single outliers don't skew your averages. So Persia, I'm going to actually dive. That's a fantastic question, and we're going to go there next. And this is where, yes, I would say you should know it for every county, city, zip code count, like all of that stuff. But calculating all of this stuff in each of those different horizons of analysis can take hours. And so that's where the trick becomes. So when we're talking supply and demand, inventory supply answers the question. You've probably heard 100 explanations of this. This answers the question. If we did not add any more inventory today and we continued to sell at the pace, how long would it take us to run out of homes to sell? And it's hypothetical. And I tell this to buyers and sellers all the time. This stat, it's not, when we say months supply of inventory, when a buyer or seller hears the word months, 9 out of 10 times their mind goes to how long does it take to sell my house? And that's not it. That's days on market, right? So months supply of inventory is this hypothetical stat that just says, if we have 10 gallons of milk on the shelf and we're selling one every hour, we have 10 hours worth of inventory in milk.
Or absorption. That's the
absorption. Yep. Absorption is kind of the inverse of that. It says what percentage. So inventory supply, you take your active inventory, and I'll show you numbers here in a minute. We'll look at any market. We can just grab any market in the country. If I have 100 houses for sale and we're selling 25 every month, then you take 100 and you divide it by 25, and you're going to get a whole number usually, and that's 4. So that means it would take me 4 months at selling 25 a month to run out of homes. Absorption rate is if you flip that on its head and you say, I'm selling, what percentage of my homes am I selling every month? Well, I'm selling 25 out of 100. 25 divided by 100 is 25%. So absorption rate is referenced in a percentage. And that's a really good, one of the ways that I'll share that stat is I'll say, we're selling 25% of the inventory every month. That means for you as a seller, you have a 25% odds of selling your house in the next 30 days. And I love that stat because then that moves into how do we beat those odds? If the average person has 20, well, number one, you hire someone who understands marketing and who's going to expose your house. That's why I'm sitting here. It's why you called me. No one outmarkets Anderson Hicks. Nobody does. So we've just increased your odds from 25% to whatever because you're hiring the top marketing firm in the area for real estate. That's number one. How else can we beat the odds? Well, now we're talking about condition of your house. we make your house in the top 10% of all of the inventory that's out there. Now you increase those odds. And the third factor is price. We make your price competitive and attractive to others, and now we can increase those odds. And so that's why supply and demand is so important. And then pending ratio. But I want to get into I know we're already 30 minutes into this and they haven't seen any AI. This is a way to kind of look at Persa's question. So when we're talking about market stats, Persa asked in the chat, she said, should I know these by town? I think that's a she, right, Debbie? Mm-hmm. Okay. So should I know these numbers by town? Well, in a perfect world, you know them at every horizon because Debbie, if we're talking about market data, you talked about county, you can zoom in and you can zoom out. And I kind of think of a photograph. If I put up an image of my family on the page and I zoomed all the way out, you could see all of, I got 4 kids and a puppy and a wife. You'd see all of that in your view at the same time. But if you're in Adobe Photoshop and you want to get all the way down to my dog's eyeball, you could zoom way in and look at the pixels. So think of the market data, think of zooming in and zooming out in 2 different channels. Number one, it's geography. So go all the way up to 30,000 feet and you can look at your entire MLS. And all those stats I showed you before, the 14 stats, I can show you those for your entire MLS, and that's zoomed way out. The other channel that you zoom in and out is on price range. So if I'm looking at an entire MLS across all price ranges, that's your most macro view. That's like flying the jet at 30,000 feet. But then you can choose to start to zoom in and you can say, okay, I want to go in 1 level on geography. What's the next level on geography? Well, it's probably county or maybe a bundle of counties. Like in our area, we have East Idaho and it's 3 counties tied together. That might be 1 level zoomed in. Then I can go into county. Then I could go into city. Then I could go into a zip code inside a city. Then I could go into a school inside the zip code. Well, then I could even go all the way down to like a subdivision or even to a street. So you get this idea. If the MLS is 30,000 feet, the street is like the runway. Okay, so that's on one channel. That's on the geography side. The other side is on price range. We could look all across all price ranges in one view. And then we could zoom into maybe like a mid segment, maybe 500 to 1 million. And then we could zoom into 500 to 600. And then we could zoom into 550 to 560. And so that experience of zooming in and zooming out can happen across 2 different channels. And the challenge with that is each one of these takes time to calculate in. Right. You have to run month's supply of inventory. You have to run a search to get your actives. Then you have to run a search to get your solds in the last 3 or 6 months. Then you have to divide that by 3 or 6 to get your average. And if you want to do that at every horizon in the geography channel and every horizon in the price range channel, your hours of calculations. Right. And that's where the technology piece comes into play. And so I want to just I want to switch over to door. Oh, I got somebody at my front door. Good thing that's at home and I'm at the office. So let's switch over for a second, if that's okay. And I want to show Area Pro. And I realize this isn't, people didn't come to be sold. There might be other tools in the industry to do that. I'm biased because I helped build this, or at least help design it. I don't write code, Debbie. I have really a lot smarter people than I do that write the code, but I helped design this. So I am biased in the sense that this allows us to do what we were just talking about very dynamically, very instantly, and in an elegant and simple manner, which is that's really important when we're talking about being an expert and communicating to our clients. And so regardless of what tool the people on the call use, we need to have the ability to analyze the market at different horizons very quickly and in a way that we can present to our clients. And so that's kind of the neutral plug to just understand, like taking the time, because there's just not enough time to calculate all this stuff on your own. So question, Debbie, do you want to, before I dive in here, do you have thoughts or questions? I don't want to just bore
you. I think we need to keep moving and show them because I know they're anxious to get to the AI. So okay. Give us an example. I'm actually quite familiar. I've coached someone for a long time that farmed this particular Brickell Bay. So very familiar.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. I think I probably Brickell Bay, is that how you say it? I was thinking it was Brickell. I just found it this morning. I was exploring in Miami. I'm in cold East Idaho, and I was jealous of all the people in Miami. So that's a cool. We're going to go into that example. Here's
So if I'm going to list, if I'm going on a listing appointment
yes,
and I need to know, I need to pull data for my
yep,
seller, right? So this is a condo building, which means it's going to be a little bit more compressed data,
yes,
be
yep.
in a way a little bit easier. So show them what they would run. How would they do this?
Perfect. Let's just go build an area for that. So, will you do me a favor, Debbie? Will you grab Google like on your phone or something? Will you get the zip code or yeah, grab the county that Brickell Bay is in and also the zip
Okay.
code for me, if you don't mind?
Okay.
So, this is what it's like to build an area. I'm actually going to show you the build process. We're going about this a little backwards. You haven't even seen the report yet that Area Pro provides with the stats that we're talking about. But because Debbie asked this, and I think this is a great way to go about it, if I want to analyze this area that we're talking about, Brickell Bay, then going back to the previous conversation about the different horizons, I might first want to take a look at the county that it sits in.
Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade.
Miami-Dade. Okay. So as soon as I load this MLS and I tell Area Pro which MLS I'm talking about, I get this instant read. So 29,000 listings in that MLS. That's massive. Like that is just a ton of data. I could click save right now and generate a real estate market overview for all 29,000 of those properties, and we'd get the 30,000 foot view. But that's really not that helpful if I'm talking about a specific seller context. So let's go to Miami-Dade County. So there's a couple options there. This is coming from we're directly linked to the MLS. So I'm going to grab either of those to see. Yeah, that doesn't change a whole lot. This means that in that MLS, someone has entered the county in two separate ways. One has the word county in it. That's okay. I've grabbed them both. Do you care whether we're looking at condos and single family detached, or do you want to
Let's just pull it all up, see what you
just
get.
go? Okay, let's do it.
And it looks like the zip code is 33131.
33131. Okay.
But there's a lot of zip codes popping up, so
Okay.
not sure if I'm right.
Whoops. So let's go.
And Juan's asking is Area Pro linked to MLS, or are you a member of that MLS? And I'm sure you're not a member of the MLS in Florida, right?
That's right. Nope, not yet. Someday maybe, but
Okay.
not right now. So we have a data feed that is syncing up with the MLS every night. So it's very, very current data. Technically, my partner John doesn't allow me to say real time because that means if you listed a property 5 minutes ago, we would have it. We do that on purpose. We refresh our database every night from every MLS that we're linked to, which is about 80% of all MLSs in the country. So we're refreshing the data every night. It's very current. We want all of yesterday's business to close out and then run the calc so that we have complete day's data. And so if we jump into Miami-Dade County, this is what we're looking at in this market. So in one click, so it only took me 3 seconds to build the area, 1 second to pull it up. I can tell you, I could walk into, and I don't mean to brag, Debbie, but I could walk into a condo in Miami-Dade right now and have a conversation that would establish my expertise in their market. And
No, I can see that because everything, all you'd really need to
you
do
could too.
is just read what's on this sheet.
Yep,
Now,
I know what the numbers mean. Now that I have their numbers, yeah, go ahead.
That I'm sure they're wondering. So if you have Area Pro, can you set it up where I see the Anderson Hicks group? Will that auto populate with their own logo so that that's a branded report?
That's exactly right. So it's branded report. You'll have your brokerage logo at the bottom, and either if you're a solo agent that has a brand, then great. Or if you don't have a brand for your solo agent, you can put your brokerage logo up there. So there's some flexibility, but yes, that's your own private branding.
Okay.
Great question.
Well,
So
it looks like to me it's worth just under $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah, now that's the average, right? Again, this isn't that's a good question. I mean, or it's a good statement kind of call out because this is not a CMA tool. And I think
Right.
I think it's important for people to understand this conversation happens right before the comparative market analysis conversation. So I said a second ago, I could walk in and have an expert market conversation. I would never walk in a condo in Miami and try to have a conversation about what their house is worth with comps, because that's where if you're in Miami, like I don't want them to think, oh, Sean thinks he could come over and take over my market. Absolutely not, because your expertise of that local area is going to really matter when you're pulling comps. And the comps are going to give you a range of what the house is worth, but where do you know in that range? And that's where you go back to, well, what are the market conditions telling me? If the comps tell me the house is worth between 650 and 7, well, then I look at what the market conditions are telling me, and does that put me at the top of that range? Can I get away with charging premium in the current market? Debbie, do you think where there's a market where there's 12 and a half months of inventory, can we get away with premium pricing and property?
No,
No,
no.
we can't. So if your comps are telling you between 550 and 6, the market conditions are telling you, unless that property is 1 in a million in terms of its uniqueness and its value and its views of the ocean, you better not be pushing the limits of that high end of the range, because the market conditions will eat you alive if you try. And so that's how these two conversations play back and forth.
And I'm not sure what Leah's question, can we add both the agent's logo and their personal logo? Or do we need to
Oh,
choose just one?
that's a good question, Leah. So this is an image in settings. You can load whatever image you want. So if your team, like let's say you're part of a team, if that team is willing to let you create a brand that says, here's the Anderson Hicks, and then maybe here's Leah, how do you say, I don't know how to say her last name, Casey?
Yes.
Okay. So you might have the Leah next to it. So there's flexibility there. We can definitely get into that. And maybe what we'll do is I'm going to have John kind of capture a list of those questions that are really kind of specific to the property
And then you can respond to them
functionality, because I
later.
want to make sure we get to the AI. It's an excellent
Okay.
question, Leah. But
Yep, let's keep moving there.
yeah, so we talked about zooming in. Now I also built the area for the zip code, and in one click, we now just went one level, because you might have someone say, well, yeah, this is Miami-Dade, but what's happening in my zip code? Well, let's look. It's actually even more difficult. Things are hard for condos in Miami right now. I was talking to someone last week, and there's regulation changes for condos there. And it's
Right.
impacting, because look at the pending ratio, Debbie. There's only 5% of their total inventory is under contract. So that is what's keeping this number low, because your pendings, they flow through to your closings, and your closings are what's driving your month supply of inventory. And so all these numbers are interconnected, and the more you talk about them, so I would suggest that as teams and as brokerages, find people that once a week you can sit and just dialogue back and forth about these numbers, because they all relate to each other. This pending ratio tells me this number's not changing anytime soon. If I
Right.
saw 22 months right there and I saw 50% pending ratio, I would say that market is waking back up. And in the last 45 days, there's been a lot of activity, and it's going to drive the sales up, which is going to drive the month supply of inventory down. Like, that's really important for trying to predict trends and help sellers know where things are headed. But this is not going to
That's
get
not happening
anytime
here.
soon.
Yeah.
Not yet. So now let's do something really fun, because I want to talk about, well, actually, before I do that, let's zoom in on price, because that's an important part of this conversation. One click, you now just did all the calculations to get all of these numbers for Miami-Dade County for all the properties between 500 and a million. And then, in fact, I want to show you Bonneville County. This is a conversation that I have on a regular basis, because look, right now we have 3.8 supply. Is that a bad market or good market, Debbie, if I'm a seller?
It's not a terrible market.
It's right in
Not a
between,
hot
right?
seller's market, but
Nope.
I've
It's
sold
not.
in person.
Perfect. Okay, that's exactly right. It's kind of a meh market. Like, yeah, in like I told you earlier, we had 2 weeks of supply, so it's certainly not as exciting as that for a
Right.
seller. But it's not crashed by any means, right? We're not at 22. Now, watch this. One click. If I have a house between 500 and a million, they are in a different market than all price ranges. They just jumped up. What now? How do you feel about as a seller, Debbie?
Now
Not
it's
quite
getting a
as
little
good,
tougher. Mhm.
right? Okay. What if your house is 7? Let's go back. There's one pocket here, 6 to 7. Now, how do you feel?
Yeah. See,
Even
I
a little
need to
worse.
figure this out for the different price categories so I could show a seller if you were in this category, you'd be doing better than the category you're in. And I'm not kidding. Literally, I would spend maybe 3 hours, to put that all.
To put it together. You
Yeah.
have, because you take your fiduciary responsibility seriously. You have to, because Debbie, unfortunately, there's a lot of agents that walk in and have this conversation with a $700,000 property, and because they don't have time to do all the math, or they don't have a tool that shows it to them. If I tell a seller, this is going to sound really condescending, I don't mean to. If I tell a seller who has a house that's 750,000 in Bonneville County, that our market is pretty decent for sellers, I am not representing them properly as an agent to them. Like, I have not done my due diligence. I haven't taken the time to find out what's happening in their price range, and I am misleading them. And chances are we're going to overprice that property. They're not going to be prepared for what's about to happen. And I'm not doing my job, because look at this. If I go as I jump up to 1 million and 1.25, I mean, let me just skip along. If you want to see all price ranges at once, you can see them right here. And we can see that
You could be sitting at a listing appointment, because this is the first time I'm viewing this too, along with everyone here. So if I'm at a listing appointment, whether it's on my phone or on my computer, I can have this ready to go. I can click around and show them quite simply, right? Which you all know I love looking at the different personality styles. So someone incredibly analytical would lose their mind. They would love this. So they probably want to see all the data. Or someone that is more a high I, high S, it's like, give me down and dirty, what do I need to know? We might not go as deep with it, right? But I think it's great to always be prepared, so you potentially have a little more layers if you need those.
That's very well said. And I think people might be wondering, okay, what does it look like? Well, for me, what this looks like is an iPad at their kitchen table. You don't have to have an iPad to use Area Pro, but it will give a much better experience, because then you can take them on this journey with you. I told you early on, one part of being an expert is being able to communicate in an engaging way. And yes, I can absolutely you can click that button and I could get all of this information in PDFs. And we have plenty of people doing that. So that's great. It's not really what we designed it for, though, because I want to be able to first explain a small set of numbers across the whole price range, and then I want to slowly take them on that journey with me, because that's the relativity we talked about, right, Debbie? That's like, I set the stage talking about the whole county,
right?
And then I started moving in, like, if I'm going at the highest possible, like, here's the zip code, and we can see there's 22 months of inventory. Well, let's see how their community, Brickell Bay condo building, check this out. So if I go to see, I'm going to show you how I built this area. I drew a map around, this is Brickell Bay Avenue. Uh-oh, it bounced on me. Let's see, let me do that again. So I drew that area around Brickell Bay Drive or Brickell Bay Avenue to just isolate that batch of properties. And that's a very granular view that's zoomed in all the way on the geography channel, but right here, it's zoomed out on the price range channel. Because what you said is true earlier, Debbie. If I zoom in on both, I now end up with data sets that are very small and maybe not as meaningful, because now I'm all the way down to their street view and I'm all the way down to a $25,000 segment. Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm okay, that's cool. That satisfies some curiosity. I'm competing against 3 actives, but there's certainly not enough information there to be able to rely on averages. And so so does that
back to the PDF versus showing it on an iPad? The reason I think my instinct is, I'm not sure I'd want to print it out and show it to them on PDFs, because then they're going to want to hold on to those and keep those.
Yeah.
And I really don't want my competitor to go get Area Pro. I'd rather show them on the iPad, blow them away. If they're interviewing the next agent who doesn't have any of this data, it's going to be pretty hard to compete with that. So I'd probably, from a coach mentality, say, show them electronically.
So
right?
you don't leave a lot of materials on your appointments. You kind of you leave them wanting more and like and really relying on the experience with you.
Right, right.
Cool. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, let's play with AI for a minute because there's other stuff we could do here, but I'm watching the clock and I know we have AI in the title. This is really fun and this is a big part of what we're offering in this product, and it's been awesome to kind of use this. And I'm going to go back to an area here that I work so that we can see these are just basic average numbers. So with one click, I can start to communicate with a large language model, which is kind of what's behind all of the AI engines out there. And I can start having a conversation. So I can just, I mean, real basic. Let's talk about this market. Okay, great. Now what's happening behind the scenes is we are basically packaging and shipping all of the data in Area Pro for that area out to the large language model. It's doing its thing and it's going to come back and do what AI does brilliantly. Now I have this little like
Script.
summary.
It's like a script. It's
It's
like,
a script.
great.
Yes, exactly. I could say, okay, great. Okay, thanks. Let's be like, didn't Ben say last month, like we have to be really nice to these people on the back
Right.
end, right? So, okay, thanks. Can you pretend I'm a fifth grader? So maybe I got my license last month and I'm like, okay, this is really like everything Sean said is way over my head because I'm just getting started. Great. Now we just basically that's what's really fun about Chat GPT and AI and Area Pro AI is you can massage it and have it follow a tone that you want to tone. It just broke it down. Let's
Well,
say,
and the point of that though too is the simpler we make it to explain to the client, that newspaper USA Today, I don't even know if it still exists. It was written so that a fifth grader could read it. Now, did fifth grader read it? No, but their point was people don't want to struggle to understand. So
yeah,
I kind of love the idea of saying, well, what's the version for a fifth grader,
that's
right?
awesome. I didn't know
Because
that. That's cool.
see, I could easily, print this out, look at it, memorize it a bit and say, okay, so Sean, here's the deal. There's quite a few homes for sale in Bonneville County. Now, some are selling. They're just not selling super fast.
Yeah,
So when
that's
we think about time to sell, on average, it takes about 81 days. See, it's a piece of cake.
you did you're this is not
And
your
I've
first
never
time
seen this
reading a script and
before.
making it sound natural, is it?
Yeah, it's a piece of cake. It's super cool. Love it.
That's cool. Okay, so let's keep chatting back and forth for just a minute here. Is this a good market or a bad market? For sellers in Bonneville County, the market is somewhat mixed depending on the property.
Yeah, that
How about we
price
play
range.
around a little bit? Come on, shoot straight. What about the 500 plus K plus market? Let's see. All right, Sean, let's get straight to it. Slower sales. Home priced above 500 are taking longer to sell. The average days on market is 99. The pending ratios are lower in these segments, 33%. This means there's less buyer activity. Okay, what about luxury? Sorry, I'm skipping the courtesies. I'm trying to
It's
go fast
okay.
here. In the luxury market. Okay, great. So now let's use this in a practical application. So I just did a listing presentation last night for a seller. This is real. Okay. This is
Okay.
literally happened last for a seller who thinks their home is worth 2.2 million. And my analysis has it way lower. Can you help me prepare an email to follow up with my appointment, summarizing the market data? Okay, let's see what it says here. So I hope this message finds you well. Wanted to follow up on our meeting last night, provide summary of the current market conditions for luxury homes in Bonneville County. Currently experiencing slow sales, taking 166. These folks said they need this house sold in 33 days. He didn't tell me. I spent 10 minutes trying to get to motivation. I believe he's got a serious illness that's causing this move because he seemed fairly desperate to try to get this house on the market fast. So I need to spend more time with him and hopefully I can get to the bottom of that. But 166 days will not work for his situation.
Right.
Let's do this. Um, let's do this. Their names are Jim and Nancy. Can you include that and invite them for a follow-up discussion on Zoom tomorrow at 5? My link is, whoops, I'm spelling things wrong here. Whoops, I just trying to, whatever, I'm bouncing back and forth. So then I would include the link and then it's just going to bundle that and I could send it off.
So with a calendar invite, it would send them a calendar invite?
Yep, it would send them, yeah, I would send them a link. I could either use Calendly to click here and schedule something, or I could include that. This knows who I am. It's got my branding. It's got my name. I can include information. So some of the other things, Debbie, that we're doing, we're having it write social media posts.
Okay.
Let's do that. How about a 200-word social media post for buyers with tons of emojis? I don't know if 200 words is a lot or not, but there we go. Now, just in 2 seconds, and you can do this with any of the markets that you've set up. So back to that really quick. I know we're running out of time. It's getting short. You can build out markets until the day is like all day long. So you can do every level, zip codes, cities, state, like counties, all of these different levels, and there's no limit to the number of areas that you can create, and you can do them instantly. And then once you have them, you're just clicking either inside consultations or as you prepare for the consultations. And like I said before, you can draw maps. We can do polygon and loop around the whole area if we want. And as we do this, we see instantly the stats for that market. We can name that test.
So a quick, because I was going to answer the question that Jerry brought up in the chat. He said this app is above my level of understanding because I am not a super techie person. I have amazing staff that is.
Okay.
And that was actually going to be my next question. To use an app like this, to use Area Pro, is it a big learning curve? Is that hard to master?
It's really not. I mean, one thing that takes a little bit of time is getting good at explaining the stats to buyers and sellers in a way that they can understand. But that's not really a learning curve to Area Pro. That's part of us learning how to communicate to buyers and sellers. So if someone, I don't know who asked that because I'm not watching chat. My guess is they're very proficient at market data. They've probably been doing this for a while. So that part doesn't scare them. It's the technology that may feel like, and absolutely not. We can be in, I mean, we do onboarding and within 20 minutes, we have agents pulling areas in their own area. If we had time, Debbie, I'd have you share your screen and I'd have you start from scratch and build an area for Newport Beach. And within 2 minutes, we would be seeing what was happening in the Newport Beach market. So, I mean, when you build an area, all you have, I mean, it literally, I can type the county like this, and I can type another county if I want to add that to it. And now I can just save. That was, I mean, if you can run a search in the MLS, you can build an Area Pro area. And now I click that and there we go. I mean, I have it. There's nothing else I have to do. Onboarding, I mean, we'll help do that. We can get logos uploaded. We can get invites sent out to team members. There's a few setup steps there, but now I'm just clicking around. I'm just exploring to learn what's happening in the market.
Human is asking, does this work for rentals as well?
Not yet. Right now, it's residential. So no land, no commercial, and no rentals. It's residential of all types. So manufactured homes, condos, townhomes, single family detached, yes, but not on the rentals.
And one last question, and then you need to tell them if they want to reach out for a demo or to find out more.
Yeah.
Susan says, can RPR provide the same data?
You can get some of these numbers from RPR. Yes, there are other tools. Your MLS likely has some kind of a stats portal inside it, which will give you some of this information. So I would say no matter what MLS you're using, you shouldn't be running manual calculations, but there isn't a tool out there that is this quick and this elegant and this powerful in terms of presenting to clients, and nobody else is doing AI as far as I know.
Okay.
So good question. There, RPR does have some really great resources for sure.
So in terms of the I guess when I first thought about AI, I thought that sounds really hard. But, to the point Jerry made, I don't think AI is that difficult to understand how to use it. It's just if you have the right technology, whether it's Area Pro or I know Ben owns Brivity CRM, they have AI built in. It's not about us figuring out AI. It's just plugging, and how are we going to use this in our business? It's more the technology that will then tell us what you go do with it, right?
Yep. I sold a guy last week, signed him up, and he was previously, he's early adopter, very technical. He was exporting data from his MLS into a CSV file, and he was using that, and he was pushing it up to ChatGPT and asking some of the same questions that we're asking. And when he saw what can be done this way, saving him that time. Let me show you, Debbie. I'm gonna in terms of like what next if someone's interested in this, and again, we're not here. I really hope that people learn things about presenting stats and mastering numbers and how important this part is. But if Area Pro is interesting, there's a couple different things. If you're a place partner, use this QR code on the right because it's included in your partnership. So use that one. If you are like a high D and you're like, I don't need to spend 30 minutes with Sean going through this again. I just saw everything. Just show me how to get going. Use this QR code on the left. Right now, retail for this product is $299 a month for 1 to 2 seats. We're running 50% off for anyone that signs up through this Forward Coaching. That's a partnership with Forward Coaching.
Or is that
for 149 for, and that's what this guy said. He's like, "Are you kidding? Like, all I have to save is like an hour or two a month, and this thing pays it for itself." And I mean, I have other people that are like, "Oh, that's a little pricey," but when we do the math and we show, number one, how many more people are you going to convert because you're the expert? Number two, how much time is it going to save you? All of a sudden, the price becomes very, very cheap. Like I think you said, insanely cheap.
And John said no contract, right?
No contract. No, absolutely no contract. And actually, the other thing we're doing, if for larger teams, the price generally is a little more expensive. But if you use that today, you're gonna out of the gate, you're gonna get 2 seats. But just email me at support@areapro.com, and I'll just increase your seat count for the next 30 days for as many as you need. So if you're still not quite sure and you want to walk through and take some time with me personally and just dive into some of the questions, or we can look at your data and your MLS and really see if it's a fit, then go ahead and use that middle link and schedule a demo. So we just wanted to give kind of all your different personality types a path here on where to go. So questions, Debbie. I don't know if
I think we've
accomplished what you hoped.
Yeah, I think we've addressed them all, as we went along. Oh, I see one, Ellie. Is this available in the Canadian market? I think not, right?
We have Ellie.
It is so tough, Ellie. Yeah.
Yeah, John, will you post the support email? Because I want to look. The challenge is a lot of the Canadian markets don't use pendings at all, so everything that's under contract is still sitting in their active or in their solds, and so we're working through some kinks there. So I would say, if you're in Canada, don't just subscribe yet today. Ping me first, and let's dive into it and look.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, John and Sean.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for all of you, what I really hope is that, I guess what I would say, my husband met with you last week, and he looked at this, and what he came home and said to me is, I feel better. I feel like I at least have something that's cutting edge, like I'm in the game, I'm in the AI game, and it's not hard or expensive. So I hope it helps you guys. And
that's awesome.
This starts opening our mind to the brave new world ahead. All right. All right, Sean.
Thank you. It's been an honor. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.